What's going on, guys? It's Mike from the Retrollectors in his basement doing another how-to. As you can see, I'm going to clean Danny's NES. This thing is grimy and dirty. I'm sure he's had it since he was a kid. I don't know if you guys can see that, but he's got a lot of dust build up, a little bit of smudges and stuff like that. Sorry if there's a glare. I'm going to be cleaning it up, taking it apart. He said that when he puts a game in, it doesn't start up right away. So I'm going to probably take apart the pin connector, take a look at that, maybe sand the connections with a fine grit sandpaper, and maybe raise the pins so that they make a better connection on the game. So I'm going to start with testing it out, see how it works, if it starts up right away, and then I'll go from there. So here we are, giving a test, put a game in. And as you can see, it's all scrambled. Try that again. Yeah, all scrambled. So I'm gonna have to probably give it a cleaner. Probably if I wiggle it, see, it doesn't really do anything. So with the cleaning, that should help. Should start up right away. One test to one touch. You basically turn it on. It should start up right away. So I'm going to give it a good cleaning, make sure all the connections work, and take it from there. So what you're going to need for your cleaning, it's pretty basic. Paper towel, some rubbing alcohol, 70% I have here. A good set of screwdrivers, Phillips head, to get into inside. I always use my trusty toothbrush here. This thing has gone through hell to clean a lot of my games and stuff, so that's that. Just a regular brush or any type of fine brush. This is more for, of course, to get any of the really solid junk and dust in there, and this is just it blows air, so maybe for any of the connections. These things probably aren't needed, but that's that. And I have a fine grit sandpaper. I think it's 180 grit, I think. It might be even finer than that. Unfortunately, it doesn't have it on here. I guess I cut the piece off. But I believe it's 180 grit, and you're going to need a card to fold over the sandpaper. And you're just basically going to run on the connections, and that's it. And basically a safety pin too, to lift the pin connectors. So I have a button here. I'll probably be using an actual safety pin, but you just lift the pin connectors up to make a solid connection on the game. Okay, so we're gonna start on the outside. Clean all the dust off from the system. Make sure it's all nice and clean, and then we're gonna take it apart, set it aside, and clean the inside and take apart the 72 pin connector. So how are you gonna do it? Paper towel and rubbing alcohol. Just give a rubbing alcohol a little spray. This thing dissolves right away. You can see already how dirty the system is. Danny probably just played it with it for a few years, and never really thought about it, but these things take a beating. This thing's over 30 years old and took a beating, and still starts up. For those that are just tuning in, I want to say Merry Christmas and to the 2014. This is our 6th month in on the Retrollector channel, so we're gonna be basically putting out a lot more content and putting out a lot more information to help gamers and gamers alike to start their collections, or to even how to clean. And I'm not gonna put this underwater. I really don't want to, just because I'm sure that if I put it underwater it'll be a lot easier. I just don't want to, for the simple fact that it's not my system. So if something were to happen, I don't want to have to shell out another 60 bucks Canadian to buy another system for Danny. So I'm gonna do this the old-fashioned way, alcohol and hand power. the NES has got a lot of little grooves, and that's what the problem is that with these grooves, it created a lot of gunk buildup. I might have to use one of my other brushes to actually really get in there. Spraying a little bit of alcohol to get in on the toothbrush and just really just go to town on it. The alcohol will evaporate fairly fast, so there's no reason to be afraid if there's any buildup or anything like that, because it should evaporate really, really fast. Try using another brush here. Longer bristles get in there a little bit better. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is spray it down with some Pledge afterwards to give it a little bit of a sheen again. Sheen, shine, whatever, however you want to say it. But as you can see, the top came pretty good. Time for the front. You guys can see that. The front's a little bit grimy as well. A little bit more rubbing alcohol. Give it a right down at the front. The front typically doesn't get very dirty, but you know what does it hurt? It's usually always the top that gets the dirtiest. The top and a little bit of the sides, but like I said, it doesn't hurt to give it a once over. When wiping the fronts or the sides or anything like that with the connections, make sure you try to stay away with from the connections. We don't want to short circuit it, so you know, just a little bit of touching around it, it's fine. And also when you're around the any of the writing, just be careful because the alcohol will peel off some of the writing on it. We'll start on the inside. So on the underside, you have 6 Phillip head screws on all sides of the system. They're all the same size. There's only 2 screws that are a little bit different, so you have to set those aside because those are got to go exactly where you took them out. So before we get in there, you could even take this out. It's useless, but you could use it to hold your screws. So I'm going to do that right there. So all 6 are out. I had to change screwdrivers. I wasn't getting a proper amount of torque with it. So now that you have it like this, they should just simply lift off. Console just lift off. I don't know if you guys saw that, but a big chunk of dust just popped out. Move that aside. Put your screws in there. And this is the belly of the beast right here. This is the inside. This is a shield from, I think it's mostly from heat. But like I said, there are 6 screws on the outside, and there are, I believe, 8 in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 on the shield. So you take the shield off, and away you go. So there were 7 screws on here. All these screws, the first initial set of screws, are all the same size, so you don't have to worry about anything. The heat shield just pops right off. If I could just get it without doing any damage to it. There we go. Shielding is off. Shielding tends to be pretty clean. So now you're on the tray. So on this one, you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws in here. 4 of the 6 are the same size as your original 13. 2 of them are bigger, and on Danny's system, they are colored. They are silver, where the other 4 are like a bronze kind of color. So you're going to separate the bronze from the silver, and the silver go exactly where they started off as. So we'll start with that. The NES is a fairly easy take apart. If I were to rate it on difficulty, I've watched a few people taking it apart, and I've done mine, and mine was having an issue starting up, and away it went. Like I cleaned it up, gave it a nice cleaning, separated the pins. I would say this is about a 3. If you're not very good and not very comfortable of taking apart electronics, I wouldn't suggest doing it. I can get by with stuff, but I will not try to do any rewirings or stuff like that. I would like to put composite or component cables on my systems, but I'm not capable of doing that, so I'm not going to. Unless you take it somewhere that you trust, I would suggest not doing it. So there's the difference in screws. I don't know if you guys could see that. The different lengths. There you go. So the silver ones get separated. Like I said, on Danny's system, I'm surprised. I don't remember mine having 2 separate colored screws. But this makes the tear apart and put back together a lot easier. So there you go. This just slides right out. We'll just watch any wires that may be at the front, but you lift and you slide. Lift and slide. This wants to come out. There we are. So that's set aside. So now we are underneath. Under here, you don't have to take apart anything else other than take this right here from the motherboard. This is what so I missed 2 more screws. There was one over here. I don't know if you guys can see that. There was one over here and one over there. So now the motherboard will lift. Okay, very simple. You just have to really just pry it off the motherboard. Be very gentle with it. There we go. And you set aside that. This is usually your culprit right here. This usually is the culprit right here. You just have to clean it up. Sometimes it gets oxidized or whatever, so you just have to give it a cleaning. I'm going to use a sandpaper just to give it a once over inside there on the top. The bottom you don't necessarily really need to touch, because that touches the motherboard. It's touched the motherboard for 30 years. It's probably not going to be that dirty. So I'm just going to clean the top there and then put it back together and see how that works. Yeah, I can see a little bit of oxidization. If you guys could see that. I'm sorry if you guys can't. But there's a little bit of oxidization in the corner right there. And usually that's what happens if you leave a game in the system for a very long time. It'll oxidize it and kind of make the connections a little bit crappy. So with the cleaning of the motherboard, I'm just using, you could use the compressed air very lightly. I have a little brush that squeezes air, just lightly go over it. There's no point in putting this part back together because I'm going to have to clean everything else out and have to put the connector back together, so there's no point in doing that. But just a once over gives it a good clean. Set it aside for now, and then we're gonna go to town on this this beast. So to start, just visually inspect it, make sure that what you need isn't too excessive. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to get a little bit of fine grit sandpaper and a card, a business card, driver's license, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. Fold it over. And you're just going to basically just go in and do one of those. Nothing too crazy, just, you know, once over to make sure that it's nice and clean and make sure the contacts are good. So what you're going to do now is once it's you know, cleaned up and a little bit sanded a little bit, not too much, but you're going to get a test cart, put it in, and this right here is a little bit too loose for my liking. It's not really making connection, because in between each pin there's a piece of plastic that pretty much has the same height as the pin, but if it's too low, the pins, what happens is it doesn't make a very good connection. Not to the point where you want to yank it out, but this is a little bit too loose for my liking. So what I'm going to do to that is I get a safety pin and I go underneath each one of the pins, and I just slightly raise it up. You can use a safety pin, any kind of pin. You just raise it up a little bit so it makes a little bit of a tighter connection on the game, and see how that works for the tightness of the thing. You just test it again with the game again and see how that goes. There we go. You just go inside underneath the pin connectors and just raise it just a little bit. You put it in and you just lift it. I don't know if you guys can see that. If you just put it in and you just lift it just ever so slightly, and you go through all of them. So now that all the pins are adjusted, see how it's a little bit tighter? It takes a little bit of effort to take out. The reason why is, like I said, you're basically bending the pins so it's you know, pin on pin connections. Go over it with a little bit of sandpaper very gently, just to take any of the gunk that we may have missed. And that's pretty much it. So what you're going to do now, once it's nice and clean, you're going to put it all together and then we're going to test it. But I'm not going to put the lid or any of the screws back, really, just because I don't want to have to put it back together and then have to take it apart again. So what you're going to do is you can clean this right here. Again, I don't see a necessity. It's been, you know, clean for 30 years. There's no point in over accessing over little things, but you can. So let's put it back together. Just lift the motherboard just slightly and slide the pins. It's going to take a little bit of force. To get it back into place. There you go. Just make sure everything's sitting and resting properly in its proper locations. Okay, that's that. You put this back over it. Lift the motherboard a little bit. Slide it in place. And I believe that's it. So we're going to test it out. Everything else that needs to go back is just the screws. So I'm not going to put the screws back together. I'm just going to test it out open and test it from there. Just be sure, since you're running a current into the system, if you're going to leave it open, make sure you don't touch any of the connections. Leave it on for a very minimal time, test it out, and then turn it off and disconnect everything back. Leave the game inside. Do not take anything apart while this is open. This is very dangerous. You're likely to get a shock. So just be careful. You guys have been warned. I've taken the liberty of connecting all the wires already just to test it out. So without further ado, let's see if this thing fires up. Look at that. First time. Look at that. One more time. Yeah, so just step by step, following those tips, it seemed to fire up right away. So now it's just a matter of putting everything back together. So now that's been put back together, I'm going to give it a polish with Pledge and bring out some of the shine, the luster back. And that's it. Spray a little bit of on a rag and just give it once over, a little bit of the little cracks. I don't know if you guys can see that, but shined up pretty nice. And that's it, everybody. I hope you guys enjoy what this how-to. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. As you can see, I'm going to do a before and after. I hope you guys enjoy. Please like, comment, subscribe, and new content's coming regularly. Thanks, guys.